reimbursement, some sort of incentive for somebody that graduates in New Hampshire and gets a job in New Hampshire and stays here after they graduate. This way, any tax dollar that's spent, you know that that's translating to a New Hampshire job, a new New Hampshire job. So there are some details to work out, but I think that would be a great initiative, and it would keep more young people here.
So would that be like some sort of government payout, or how would that reimbursement work? I mean, I know you said there's some more details to work out, but can you give us the basics about how you envision that?
Well, I think there would be a period of time set out, so you had to work in New Hampshire for 5 years after, you had to work in New Hampshire at least 5 years. We'd have to build some things in so that people, so that people don't take advantage of it or try and game the system in any way. But I think those are really achievable, beatable obstacles. And yeah, it would be a reinvestment in our students. And it's those kind of ideas, that I want to get across, that Republicans aren't against, spending money on things. It's about accountability. Like, instead of spending money on the university system just because we put the smallest dollar amount into our students out of any other state or some kind of thing like that, I want to put money into the university system because I've recognized the great things they're doing with what they have, and I realize what they could be doing if they were properly funded. An example of this is the RCAM program at Keene State, the Regional Center for Advanced Manufacturing.
Yep. Sure. Yep.
I've been lucky to be a part of their business sort of outreach, and I've hired people out of this program. It's incredible. Okay, other businesses in the area, Filtrene, Whitney Brothers, Nanotech, and this Keene State has really been great about bringing these employers in and figuring out what they need for workers, and they've tailored their curriculum to those needs.
All right, yeah, and so, time is short here to a point, so we want to kind of move on to some other subjects too. What are some other things that are really important to you while you're running for state rep?
Well, I was involved in starting a nonprofit called the American Bed Registry, which is an online database, basically hooking up people in need of mental health and addiction treatment to the right options. It's basically, think of it as like a Google map that shows you what treatment options are around you, what they offer, and then hooking them up with them. So I've worked with, I've been bringing together medical industry people, for the board of directors of this organization, from the Brattleboro retreat, a nurse at Cheshire Medical is also on the board, and also tech entrepreneurs. And we're kind of coming together, and we really made something great happen by bringing together people of different backgrounds who you'd never see really sitting in the same room together. But we talked about this issue of access to mental health and addiction treatment, and we came up with a private sector, nonprofit solution for minimal startup costs. Okay, minimal startup costs. Yeah. And it was incredible that we were able to take on a social challenge like that and make something really positive happen.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because it's obviously been a hot topic here in the Granite State for a couple of years. Recent slashes to mental health care that were made, and so
I'll put it this way: in 1950, we had 500,000 acute mental health beds available. Now, a lot of that was part of the state-run institution bill system, which wasn't so great. But regardless, today we have 50,000. Do you think we have 1/10 of the people in need of those services?
Of course not.
Of course not. Yeah. So it's a huge issue. That's more of a national issue, but you can do local things to help it. That's what I want to get across. Is we started a nonprofit for New England right now. We have national aspirations, but we're going to help people get the treatment that they need. Okay. And we've made positive steps in that direction, and I think we need to empower more people to do that.
Sure.
Not rely on government to do it.
Yeah, that's interesting, really interesting. Other quick topics we just quickly can talk about here. We were talking before you get on the air, revenue here in the state of New Hampshire, we were talking about legalization of marijuana as one option maybe. There are other ways. Do you have any ideas yourself on to increase the revenue in the state of New Hampshire to help maybe, improve some of the infrastructure, roads and bridges and things like that?
Oh, I definitely see a need to increase revenue, but I think we need to make longer term, more secure plans as far as business growth and job growth. I think there are a lot of sort of gimmicky new taxes that people are proposing, and they'll try and sell it to you, saying that your property taxes are going to be lower. This is going to be the silver bullet solution that solves our economic problems, and I just would have to disagree. I really think we need to put long-term, stable plans in place. I mean, 25% of the general fund for education in New Hampshire comes from business taxes. It's by far the big breadwinner.
Yeah,
for
BET,
us,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
So, I mean, does it make sense to be looking there for revenue growth? Look to your biggest revenue generator, and it also puts your eggs in a lot of baskets, right? If you accept a tax like a marijuana tax or something, that's it. You know,
Right.
that tax is dependent on whether that one thing succeeds or fails. If you put your energy towards business growth, every business owner, every entrepreneur in the state becomes part of that solution. And it also has a positive effect on our way of life here. People who start businesses here, people who are working in New Hampshire contribute back to our local communities. They go to the local food co-ops. They push for positive changes like putting in a bike path or
Yep.
preserving a piece of land to enjoy it. So I think the social benefits of investing in business growth are really, really something worth doing.
All right, well, we do have a phone call here this morning, and so let's go right to the phone lines. And thanks for calling us, Sound Off. Please go right ahead. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, I'm not I'm not a politician. I think by definition I'm not a politician, as I've never run for office before. I also am not from New Jersey. That was my long extended family, but I am from New Hampshire, and I consider myself a Granite Stater.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. Obviously, the caller has his opinion, but you've never run for office before. This is your first foray into the elected office area. So
Yeah, it's hard to criticize someone about their, how they may vote if they have never voted before.
Yeah. So
That's a valid point.
Yeah, and so
we do thank you for coming in, obviously, and sharing your thoughts on all of this.
Yeah.
Real quick, I know we're probably getting low on time here, but the revenue thing, I think you make a good point about investing in businesses is a good way to generate some more revenue. Is it fair to say, George, that it's not going to take just one thing, though? Because certainly I wouldn't advocate for only marijuana as the answer, legalizing marijuana. I think it's going to take a number of things. You can do a couple of different things at once, whatever they might be. At least
I do agree. I mean, like any business owner, if you're a responsible business owner or CEO, you're going to keep all options on the table. Okay, it's the only responsible thing to do, because over time, new information comes out. New solutions come out and then involve different things.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, personally, I would not take the pledge against a income or
interesting.
tax, but I don't think that it is something that I would consider by any means.
But it's something that you wouldn't totally write off either. I mean, I
think that I just the pledge idea has become a checkbox.
Yeah,
people,
I mean,
and it's just it rubs me the wrong.
George, I am refreshing to hear a Republican necessarily, and I don't say that in the kindest words, with that attitude, because of all of the major candidates, the Republicans have all taken the pledge, and it doesn't.
Well, here's one that won't. But I would take an incredible amount of convincing to even consider doing an income or a sales tax.
Yeah.
Do you have a sense, George, that there's maybe a little bit of a new direction for the Republican Party? Looking on your website here, it says time for new energy in Concord. Obviously, you're a younger guy than we're used to seeing run for office and serving in office, and you seem to have some ideas that are maybe a little bit outside the traditional box of the GOP. So I'd like to maybe hear you elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think I represent a new generation of political thinkers, of people who just want to see common sense solutions put in action, not the digging in your heels just for an arbitrary reason.
Right.
I really, I think there are people out there like that, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of them on the with an R next to their name. I mean, they're in our current race. I'm not going to go into who I favor or who I like in any other offices,
sure.
but
yeah.
there are definitely, take a good look at the Republican candidates on the ticket this time, because there are some really exciting younger people with fresh ideas.
And we've just got a few minutes left, so is there any other things that you'd just kind of like to mention to the listeners?
Yeah, one thing I do want to offer out there is I think that there is a significant difference between my views and the views of the incumbent Cynthia Chase. I would challenge her maybe on KBK or maybe in another venue, but I'm definitely open to doing a open debate. I think that's going to be important to flush out some of these issues. Details to be determined, maybe on the radio here. Maybe you guys can run that by her when she's on, but something I'm interested in doing.
Well, certainly she has an open invitation to come on the show, and who knows exactly how that'll shape up. But as we get closer, we'll see what we can do.
But thank you guys. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah, and we appreciate it, George. And I have been in contact with Cynthia, and we will see what we can do. And that would be kind of interesting. I'd love to hear that for sure. And it could be a fun discussion. Well, George, I want to thank you very much. Again, this is George Hansel. He's a Republican candidate in Cheshire 8, District 8 for Ward 5 here in Keene. And again, this is the primary time, you and Cynthia running, but no other candidate. So really, just a little time to kind of let voters know who you are, and then we'll have you back later towards the general election, and you can kind of clarify some of the things and more ideas that you have. We'd love to have you back.
Thanks for coming in, George.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Well, we're going to take a break right now on Sound Off with Kyle and myself right here on AM 1290 and FM 107.5 and W.